Hello everyone, welcome to another reading vlog. I am currently waiting for my last reading vlog to finish exporting, so I thought I should start this new vlog while I'm feeling motivated. This is going to be the next instalment in my Kindle Clearout Project, which is a reading vlog series that I've been doing on my channel this year, and it's basically my way of trying to hold myself accountable and read through my Kindle TBR, because I keep buying Kindle books and then not reading them, and I've ended up acquiring a huge backlist of Kindle books. So in this episode I am going to be reading witchy books because it's almost Halloween. In fact, by the time this video goes live it might either be Halloween or Halloween will have just gone past. But yeah, I'm going to be reading books featuring witches in this vlog, and I'm really excited about it because I did do a similar vlog to this last year. Actually, I'm questioning myself now. Did I do that vlog last year or did I plan to do it and then I didn't? But anyway, the book that I have started first is Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco. I bought this in 2020 or 2021, I think. It came out in 2020 and I bought it not long after because it was getting a lot of hype. And then I spotted it in a 99p Kindle deal and I decided to snap it up. I even have the second book as well, which again I think I saw in a 99p Kindle deal. So I'm currently around 20% of the way through this, and I don't know how I feel about it so far. So this is following a main character called Amelia, who is from a family of witches. All her life she has heard stories from her grandmother warning her about the wicked, who I think are demons from hell. At the start of the book, young witches across Sicily are being murdered, including someone close to Amelia, and so she ends up summoning Prince from Hell to help her get revenge and find out what's happening with all of these murders. I don't want to say too much because, right, there is something that is mentioned within the summary of this book, and I understand that it's not really a spoiler. However, because I knew this specific event was happening within the first few chapters, it meant that I was waiting for it to happen. And it didn't really have that much of an emotional impact on me, and I think it should have. It's not that I thought it was badly written or anything, but I don't yet have an emotional attachment to any of the characters. I actually really don't like Amelia, and it's frustrating because this is told in first person POV, so you are in her head the whole time, and I'm finding her a little bit irritating. However, I do really like the dialogue in this, and we've got a little bit of insight into what her and Wrath's relationship is going to look like. Wrath is this prince from hell that she's summoned, and I'm hoping from this point onwards I'm going to feel more invested because I already like Wrath more than I like Amelia. Also, this is firmly YA. I think the rest of the series becomes more new adult / adult. Can't get my words out today. But this first book was marketed as YA, and it does feel like YA. There's been a little bit of telling and not much showing, but I do like the setting where this is set. It's set in Italy, and Amelia's family owns a restaurant, so there's lots of descriptions of food and cooking, which I'm really liking. So yeah, mixed feelings on this at the moment, but I'm reading it quite quickly, I guess because it is YA. Hoping to read some more this evening. It's currently Saturday. I can't remember if I mentioned that, but yeah, I'm hoping to read some more this afternoon / evening, and I will probably catch up with you tomorrow once I have more thoughts. I don't actually have any plans this weekend because October has been a month. I've had stuff going on every single weekend, to the point where I actually booked some time off work earlier this week because I needed some time to just relax and not stress. But anyway, I am going to go and hopefully upload my video if it's finished exporting, and then I'm going to settle down and read for the evening. So I am now around halfway through Kingdom of the Wicked, and I think if any other author had written this, I would be enjoying it a lot more, and I'm really upset. I just don't like Kerri Maniscalco's writing, and there's nothing wrong with the writing style that's more to the point and that's not overly descriptive or atmospheric, but I think the fact that I'm not liking the writing style combined with other issues means that I'm really struggling right now. It's not like I'm reading it slowly though, I'm reading it quite quick. Obviously I'm now halfway through, but I feel like there's no real flow to the story and things aren't really being explained. Like there was one point where the main character was in one place and I wasn't really sure where she was, but then the next chapter she wasn't there anymore, so it didn't really matter anyway. She seems to be going from one thing to the next without really pausing to process or strategize her next move, and I just don't like the main character. I hate being inside her mind. The only thing I like at the moment is Wrath. I am vaguely curious about the mystery as well, but I'm going to read a few more chapters this evening before deciding whether to DNF. But yeah, I'm really upset that I'm not liking this more, because at the moment I think the most it's going to get is 3 stars, and there's nothing wrong with 3 stars, but do I want to persist with reading this when I could be reading something else that I'm going to enjoy a lot more? So yeah, I'm going to read a few more chapters this evening and then I'll catch up with you again in the morning.
Too early just to lose some more sleep. I've been hiding from my pride, well I'm looking for a change. Oh, but what if I change my mind? Will I find my wasted time? There's somebody I look up to, I could only hope to be. If we had the conversation, I know exactly what he'd say to me. What he'd say to me. He would say you'll be alright.
So it's now Monday afternoon and I didn't end up vlogging yesterday because I went into town and it chucked it down with rain, and by the time I got home I looked like a drowned rat, so I decided not to talk to the camera. I didn't want to be on camera because I was feeling kind of miserable. So yeah, didn't end up vlogging much yesterday. I think I took some b-roll while I was out and about, and I did decide to go ahead and finish Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco. I actually started to enjoy the second half a little more than the first half, and I did want to find out how everything was going to be resolved in the end, but I was really confused by the ending. I don't think it's a good sign when you get to the end of a book and you have to Google what actually happened, because I thought I understood, but then I Googled and I don't think I did understand it. I didn't think that the mystery in this was very satisfying. It felt like everything was happening to the main character instead of her actually going out and earning the reveals, and it was just really confusing. I felt like there was a lot going on and I was really struggling to follow everything. I don't know whether that's just because I didn't like the writing and I didn't like the main character, and so I didn't really feel as invested as I should have been. I ended up having a lot of questions that weren't answered, and there's a possibility that they could be answered in book 2, but I think Kerri Maniscalco's writing just isn't for me. Like I said, I was very confused while reading this, so I think I would need to continue quite quickly, and I do own the second book, so maybe I should give it a go, because the one thing I did like was the romance, but even then I don't feel like I was invested in the romance romance to continue with the series. I've heard that the romance becomes more of a focus in book 2 onwards. It was only a hint of romance in the first book, but I did really like Wrath. I feel like I'm just talking round and round in circles now, but yeah, I think this was an interesting concept, but I didn't like the execution. I haven't decided on my final rating for this yet. I did run it through Corpile and it came out as 2 stars, but I feel kind of bad giving a YA book 2 stars when I know that I'm not the target audience, and I know that a lot of people have loved this book. I think it's just a case of I don't like Kerri Maniscalco's writing, and that's a really difficult thing to review because obviously I'm not going to know before picking up the book that I'm not going to like the writing because I'd never read anything by Kerri Maniscalco before. But anyway, I feel like I'm starting to ramble now, so let's move on and talk about the next book that I'm going to be reading for this vlog, which is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandanna, which is a really difficult title to say. I started this last night. I think I've read the first 50 pages or 12%. It's really difficult to remember because obviously I'm reading this on my Kindle, but I have been so excited for this book. I've heard it described as cozy fantasy, which is something that I really crave around this time of year, and so far I'm liking the vibe. So this is following a young witch called Mika. It's set in our world. It's actually set in the UK, which I wasn't expecting. For some reason, I thought it would be a fictional world or the US, but it's set in England, and we're following this witch called Mika, who I think is around 30 or 31. And like most witches, she grew up in isolation because the thing in this world is that all witches are orphans. So whenever a witch is born, soon after their parents will die. Another reason most witches live in isolation is because magic is drawn to them. So if you have a few witches in one location, then chaos can ensue. And yeah, we're following Mika as she is asked to help out with these young witches who are all orphans. There's these 3 children who happen to be witches living in this house, and they are struggling to control their magic. So the caretakers try and recruit Mika to help with this. Like I said, I'm not that far into it, but so far this has promise. I feel like this is going to be very character driven, and it's going to be more about the coziness and the heartwarming feels rather than be super plot driven. But I really like the characters so far. I've heard that this also has a hint of romance as well, which I'm here for, so hoping to read some more of this tonight. I don't have any plans tonight from what I remember. I was meant to be going to the Peak District tomorrow with work, but because of the weather, I think that's going to be cancelled, which means I'm going to have more spare time tomorrow evening because I wasn't going to be getting back until quite late. So yeah, I will keep you updated on my thoughts, but so far I'm enjoying this a lot more than Kingdom of the Wicked, although you can't really compare them because even though they both have witches, they're both very different tones. So it's now Wednesday? No, it's not. It's Tuesday evening, and I am currently around 50% of the way through The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and usually at this point in a book I don't want to predict that it's going to be 5 stars because there's still plenty of time for me to be disappointed. However, I am loving this book so much. I was almost crying last night because it's just so cute and adorable and I couldn't cope. And I was feeling a little overwhelmed. I can definitely see the comparisons to House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune and Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. I think that if you liked either of those, then you could really like this. I love the found family and the characters. It's just so sweet, and it's exactly what I want to be reading right now. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's been a few moments that have just made me melt on the inside, and it's just so cute seeing the main character, first of all, try and help out these children who are struggling with their magic, but it's also really cute seeing the love interest, who's called Jamie, and I keep picturing him as Jamie from Outlander, who's played by Sangu, I think is his name. That's how I keep picturing him, and he is just so grumpy, but the way that he is thinking about the main character and how she grew up in isolation and she's felt her entire life like she's never been able to get close to someone because she's always had to hide her witchiness and that side of her, and it's just so cute. I feel like I keep repeating myself, but I'm loving this so much, and I might try and finish it tonight. I almost don't want this to end with how much I'm enjoying it. Obviously, I've still got half of the book left, but so far, I think if you're looking for a cozy book that has a hint of magic and found family, if you like the grumpy sunshine trope, and even if you just want to read about likeable characters, then pick this one up. I'm really enjoying it so far.
Maybe I could say I got it all figured out, 'cause you know it don't grow on trees, but you would tell me so, you never owe me a thing.
Hello everyone, it is now Thursday. I have just finished work for the evening. It's currently around 5:15, and I wanted to update you with my final thoughts on the very secret society of Irregular witches, which I hope I've got that name right. I have had to practice how to say the name of this book over and over again in my head because I keep getting it wrong. But I have now finished this, and if anyone has any recommendations for books like this, please let me know in the comments because I am obsessed with this book. I gave it 5 stars, and I know that the author has another book coming out next year, which I definitely want to read. I don't know whether that's going to be like a companion novel to this one. I don't think it is. I know that it's another witchy romance, but that's about all I know. There were some really cute moments in this, and there were so many moments that made me laugh out loud, and it just put a huge smile on my face. I'm so glad that I waited until October to read this because it was just exactly what I wanted to read this month. The only thing that I wanted to mention, which isn't really a criticism, it's more of an observation, but even though I liked the romance in this, I don't think I would recommend this specifically for the romance. Like, the romance was an important part of the plot, but I think that all of the different elements worked well together and complemented each other well. So that's why I loved the book as a whole. Like, the romance could have been more of a thing. It's not completely closed door, but it's also not super steamy. It's somewhere in the middle. The main plot really is Mika teaching these young witches how to cast spells and how to make potions, and it was just so wholesome. I feel like I keep using the same words over and over again. There's also this looming threat where there's a possibility that if people find out about these children, then they might end up being separated because that is the norm in this world. And I thought the way that this book discussed loneliness and how it showed the impact that isolation can have on a person, I thought that that was done really well. So yeah, 5 stars, and I think this is going to end up on my favourite books of the year list. So we're back on track with this vlog. We've had a 2 stars and a 5 stars. Hopefully we can continue with the 5 stars. There's 2 more books that I would like to try and read for this vlog. The first is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin, which I have already started. I started this last night, and then I realised that the audiobook is on script. So even though this is a Kindle Clearout project, I don't think it's cheating to listen to the audiobook in between reading it on my Kindle. So I read some more of this on my lunch break as well when I popped into town. down, and I'm now about 20% of the way through. I think this came out in 2019, so I've had it on my Kindle for a while, and I can remember around the time that it came out, there were a lot of really positive reviews, but then there were also a lot of really negative reviews, so I wasn't sure which side of the fence I was going to sit on with this, and I think that's why I've been putting it off for a while, but so far I'm liking it. It's a pretty standard YA fantasy romance, and I wasn't expecting this to be dual POV. So the one character that we're following is this witch called Louise, who 2 years ago left her coven and has stopped practicing magic. We also get chapters from the love interest, who is called Reed, and he is a witch hunter. So yeah, essentially it's a romance between a witch and a witch hunter. I don't really have many thoughts on it so far, even though I'm a fifth of the way through, but I'm going to carry on reading this tonight, and then once I finish it, my plan is to pick up Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper, which I believe is a rom-com. I think it has a sapphic romance, and it's following a woman who's trying to get revenge on her ex, so it sounds like it's going to be a fun time. But yeah, my plan is to try and finish Serpent and Dove by the weekend, and then I'll read Payback's a Witch early next week. Hello everyone, it's now Friday and I'm having a bad day, which I'm not going to talk about. It's really not that big a deal, but I had a blood test this morning at the doctor's. It was really painful, so wasn't the best start to the day. However, because I had to walk into town to go to my appointment, I ended up listening to some more of Serpent and Dove on the way, so I'm now like 57% of the way through. I just dropped my phone. I'm now over halfway through. The thing is, nothing has really happened in this book yet. I only have a very vague idea of what direction the plot is going in. There hasn't really been that much world building either. However, I am feeling really invested in the romance, and I can't even really explain why. I don't think I even really like the main character that much. Lou is kind of obnoxious and irritating, but the way that she keeps winding up the love interest Reed, it's so funny and entertaining, and I'm just having a really good time with this book. This feels like true enemies to lovers. Reed is part of this organisation that hates witches and thinks that they're evil, and in the beginning I truly believed that they didn't like each other. Lou is very confident and outspoken, whereas Reed is more stoic. He's kind of grumpy. Given the choice, he would have nothing to do with Lou. However, they've found themselves in this forced proximity situation, and the tension, I think it's been done really well. It's not the best written book that I've ever read, but it's fun. I am enjoying my time reading it. Very glad that this is going well so far, considering it does have quite mixed reviews. I also think the magic in this is really interesting. I wish the magic had a little more development, but I also understand that Lou is having to hide the fact that she's a witch, so it makes sense that the magic hasn't really played much of a part yet. In this world, you can actually smell magic when it's just happened, and magic also has consequences, so you have to sacrifice something to be able to use magic. I feel like there's potential for that to be developed more, maybe in later books. I know that this is the first book in a trilogy, and I haven't heard the best things about the later books, but my plan, because I'm enjoying the audiobook, once I finish the first book, I might just continue on with books 2 and 3. I know that they're quite chunky, but because it's YA, I am listening to it quite quickly. I feel like that didn't really make sense. I'm listening on 2 times speed normally, and then 2.5 speed when I'm reading along with my Kindle, so I'm getting through it quite quickly. I only have, I think, less than 3 hours left of the audiobook, so I might actually finish it tonight. In terms of non-reading plans, I am going out for Halloween tomorrow. One of my friends is having a Halloween party, so I'm going to that in the evening, but I am driving, so I'm not going to be drinking, which means I won't have a hangover on Sunday, which means I'm going to have more reading time. I do also need to film my TBR at some point. I'm thinking I might do that tomorrow and then maybe edit on Sunday, but it shouldn't take me that long actually. So yeah, hopefully this is going to be a productive weekend. Hello everyone, it is now actually Monday. I decided not to vlog over the weekend because I didn't read anything on Saturday, and then on Sunday I didn't fancy being on camera. So that does mean I have quite a few reading updates to go through with you. The first being that I finished Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. I'm gonna give this 4 stars, you know. It wasn't the best writing that I've ever read, but I had a really good time with it. I thought it was really fun, and there were some decent twists that I didn't see coming, which I always appreciate. I think the world building could have been more complex and more developed. It felt like a fantasy world based on medieval France, but the plot was pretty much contained to this one city, so it was hard to tell. Judging from the way this ended, I feel like there's still room for more world development and more development of the magic. I think this is being marketed as YA, and I would say that it's more upper YA. There's one sex scene which I was not expecting, and I was listening to this while I was out in public, and it was a little bit awkward. But yeah, 4 stars for Serpent and Dove, and I think I will give the second book a try because the audiobook is available on Scribd, but I'm going to try and keep my expectations low because I know books 2 and 3 don't have the best reviews. I have also now moved on to the final book that I'm going to be reading for this vlog, and that is Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. I'm about a third of the way through so far, and I am liking this. I like the plot, and I can see why some people describe this as The Goblet of Fire meets John Tucker Must Die, because it has this revenge type story set to the backdrop of this competition. We're following a main character called Emmy, who is a witch from this small town called Thistle Grove, and Thistle Grove was founded by these 4 witches, and there are 4 main witch families within this small town. Emmy is the heir to one of these families. However, around 5 years ago, she moved to the city to carve out a life for herself separate from magic. Every 50 years, this town holds a tournament where representatives from these different families compete to have control and govern this small town. So it's a pretty big deal, and Emmy returns to town to moderate this competition. Like, her family are the moderators of this tournament. The main reason that Emmy moved away was because she had her heart broken by this guy who is the heir to one of these other families. I feel like I'm describing the plot in a more complicated way than it actually sounds, but there's a lot going on in this book, and basically Emmy teams up with her best friend and this other woman. They all had their hearts broken by this guy and decide to get revenge on him, and that is essentially what the plot is. They're using this tournament to get revenge. I like the characters so far, and I've enjoyed the setup of the story, but I don't like the writing in this. It feels like it's using too many words to say what it's trying to say. Like, It's very descriptive, but in a way that feels unnecessary. So I'm hoping that kind of calms down the further that I get into the story, because I do like the plot. But yeah, so far the writing hasn't been flowing as well as I would like. So interested to see what I end up thinking of this overall. I'm going to try and get past the halfway point this evening and then update you with some more thoughts tomorrow if I have them. I feel like this is one of those books where maybe I'm not going to have much to say about it, but so far it's okay. Good morning everyone, happy Halloween. It is now the 31st of October and I have timed this vlog perfectly because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to finish Payback's a Witch tonight. So I'm going to be wrapping up the vlog on Halloween, which is kind of cool. Hopefully I can get it edited in time to go live on Thursday. But yeah, I am currently around 60 something% of the way through Payback's a Witch and it's moving a lot quicker now. I feel like in the middle there was a bit of a lull where it was slowing down and I was a little bit bored. However, generally I'm liking this. I think that the characters are fine, the plot is sort of interesting, and there's a slow burn sapphic romance which is kind of cute. I don't know how to explain it. It's not like it's overwhelming, but it's also not underwhelming. It's in the middle. I am just feeling very whelmed about this book. There's nothing that's really sticking out to me other than the small town setting. I do really like the vibes of this small witchy town, so I would consider reading the other companion books in the series, but yeah, it's just not anything special at the moment. And by that I mean I don't think it's going to be a 5 stars or anything. I think it's going to be like a 3 or a 4 stars depending on the ending, but there's nothing that I'm actively hating about it. The writing, I think I mentioned, isn't my favourite just because it's so overly descriptive. Like every time a character is introduced, there's like a whole paragraph or sometimes even half a page describing the way that this character looks, and I don't really care. Like I don't need that much information. I'm just gonna imagine them how my brain wants to imagine them anyway. So yeah, mixed feelings about this so far. However, I will let you know my final thoughts once I've finished it. Hopefully tonight. I don't have any plans this evening other than finish this book. It doesn't really feel like Halloween. I think because I kind of celebrated the weekend. Yeah, I think it's just going to be a nice chilled evening. For some reason, I'm really struggling to get my words out this evening, but I wanted to pop in and wrap up this vlog because I have now finished Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. I'm going to give this 3 stars. I didn't think it was bad. I don't want to be too critical about it because it delivered on what I was expecting. Like, it gave me those cozy witchy vibes and it reminded me a little bit of The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. This was very cheesy and sometimes I like that, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but this also had a lot of pop culture references, which I think are going to age it quite quickly. I think it came out in 2021, maybe, and reading it at the end of 2023, there were some references and some more modern slang that really took me out of the story. So yeah, it was a little bit distracting at times, and I think the writing could have flowed a little bit smoother, but otherwise, it was fine. So yeah, that does bring me to the end of this reading vlog. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Let me know as well if you've read any of the other books in, I think it's the Thistle Grove series. Let me know if there's any that you'd recommend, because I'm assuming they can be read as companion novels, and I might read another one of them next Halloween. But yeah, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you did like it, and click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me. But otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye!